everyone, and welcome to episode 34 of Book Writing Tips, quick tips for new and seasoned authors, and I am your host, Alba Arango. Now, if you listened to my episode last week, episode 33 about vacations, then you would know that last week I was actually in Disney World, and it was so much fun. I came home with all kinds of memories, and I also brought home a very nasty cold, which is why I sound so nasally right now. And if this episode sounds a little choppy, it's probably because I had to edit a bunch of coughing out of it. So I thought, what a great opportunity to introduce today's topic, which is using a cold or flu for character development. So with no further ado, let's get down to it. How can you use a character's cold or flu for character development? Alrighty then, today's episode will be in two parts, albeit short parts because I don't know how long my voice will hold out. But in the first part, I will talk about how if you give your main character the cold or the flu, what are some ways you can incorporate that into the story, and should you do it? And in part two, I'm going to talk about giving other characters, side characters, even minor characters the cold to actually introduce not just your main character, but other characters' character development as well. So let's get to it. Part one, your main character. Now, I am not positive that giving your main character a cold or the flu is the best thing to do. However, if they need to, say, miss a party or something, or miss a work event or something major event where it's important for your character to not be there for some reason, giving them the cold or a flu is a good way to get them out of the event. So for example, if, say, there's a party and your main character really wants to meet this love interest at this party, and for some reason they catch a cold or the flu and they can't go to the party, and then that love interest hooks up with someone else, that could be a great way to turn the story where the person she really wanted to be with is no longer available, which kind of opens the door for maybe her main love interest to kind of step into the situation. Just make sure, though, there really is a reason to give your main character the flu. So it doesn't make sense if suddenly because you could do the whole they get the flu and they miss this party and then, 5 days later they come back to it. But was it really necessary to give them the flu? Because maybe it wasn't. Maybe there's a different way to get them out of there without actually giving them the flu or the cold, because that actually does put them out of commission for several days. So it's not like, say, a family emergency came up and they suddenly had to go babysit like their nephew. This is like something that could take them out of commission for like a week. So if it's important for them to be out of commission for a week, then that's a perfect, way to introduce that. But if you only need them to be gone for like a day, then I don't think a cold or the flu is the right way to go, because that really does make them out of commission. And don't forget that if you have the cold or a flu, you really shouldn't be going out. So if your main character does come down with the flu or the cold, and then they're like going to the grocery store or something, your readers are going to get some of them, I should say, might get a little upset. Like, especially if they take care of like older relatives, they're going to be like, are you serious? You're going out to the grocery store? You're going to infect people. So just kind of be a little sensitive to how people are today, and rightfully so, that, with COVID and with all these things that are around, that a character who's been infected with the flu or a cold should not be out in public where they can transfer the germs to other people. Now, before I get to part two, it's time for the crazy law / writing prompt. If you are new to the show, every week I give you a crazy law, and it is a law that once upon a time was a real law in history, and your challenge is to write a story about that law. And it's just sort of a way for you to flex your writing muscles and give you a little bit of a distraction from your work in progress. So here we go. I thought this would be appropriate. This week's crazy law. In Asheville, North Carolina, it is illegal to sneeze on city streets. And just let me tell you, that was a law I would have been arrested very many times in the past week. So there you go. What would have happened to have made that the law? There you go. Now, part two, and this might be more apropos. If your story does take place in the winter or when it's like the weather changes and that's that time when people get colds and get the flu, it would not be uncommon for one of the characters to catch a cold. And I love how people react when someone has a cold. So for example, let's say it's the work lunchroom and someone comes in and they're kind of sniffly. So I was a teacher and work lunchrooms were common. And if one of the teachers was sick, it was always interesting to see how other teachers respond. And I'm sure at your work, it's probably the same way. How do other people respond when someone is sick? This is a great opportunity for character development. So say someone is sick. There's always the person who's like the kind one. And this is a great opportunity to show off that kindness. As soon as they're sick, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, is there anything you need? You know what? I have a great recipe for chicken soup. I'm going to bring you some of my grandma's chicken soup tomorrow. It's going to make you feel so much better. Let me know if there's anything else I can do. There's always that person. That's a good person to have. That's the kind of people you definitely want to have in your life. And then there's always the person that kind of like pushes away. And then the next day they sit like way down the table or don't even come to the lunchroom because they don't want to be around them. That's a great way to show character development of that person as well. And these can be minor characters, your backup characters. And if your main character is the one that's sick, the way people respond, that's a great way to show people in their life as well. If they have a new love interest, how is the new love interest responding? Are they, sympathetic? Are they offering to go get groceries? Do you need anything? Do you want me to come over? Is there anything I can do? Or are they more like, oh no, that's terrible. I'm so sorry you're sick. It's too bad we can't go out this weekend kind of thing. That shows a lot about person and about personality. And if your character is married, how does their spouse respond? How do their kids respond? How does your main character respond to being sick? So how does your main character respond to her husband being sick or to her kids being sick? These are great, small, minor ways that you can use something like a cold to introduce character development in just a very minor nuance, but it's something that is so relatable that everyone knows and understands. And my voice is not going to hold out much longer, so I am going to say goodbye for now. I drop a new episode every week, and hopefully next week I will be in better shape so I can actually do a longer episode for you. And until then, stay safe, try to stay, as healthy as possible, and I will see you all next week.